Have you ever thought that to get truly strong, you basically have to live in the gym? That building muscle and, just being healthier requires this insane amount of time that most of us just don't have? Well, what if I told you that for the vast majority of people, the biggest, most important benefits are hiding in a time commitment so small, it might actually blow your mind. Let's dig into the science behind this 2-hour-a-week secret.
And we really have to start right here. This quote from Dr. Mike Israetel just hits the nail on the head. It perfectly frames why we're even talking about this. See, strength isn't just about how you look. It's about function, it's about independence, and it's about the quality of your life, especially as you get older. The whole point is to be strong for the long haul.
So, what is this big secret? It's pretty simple, actually. The huge majority of the health and longevity benefits that come from resistance training, well, you can get them with way less time than you'd think. We're not talking about trying to become a professional bodybuilder here. We're talking about becoming a healthier, stronger, more capable version of you.
Now let's just get this out of the way. A huge fear for a lot of people when they start out is getting too bulky by accident. Let me be totally clear. That is like becoming accidentally wealthy. It doesn't happen. Gaining that much muscle takes years and years of incredibly focused, disciplined hard work. You are not going to lift a few weights and wake up looking like the Hulk. That's a total myth.
So what is the magic number? Well, all the science points to this sweet spot, the spot where you unlock pretty much all of the incredible health benefits we're after, and it's just 1 to 3 hours of quality resistance training a week. That's it. And if you want to put that number into perspective, just look at this chart. The average person spends 10, 15, even more hours every single week scrolling social media or watching TV. The 1 to 3 hours you need for strength training, it is a tiny, tiny fraction of that. I mean, when you talk about return on investment for your time, it's pretty much unbeatable.
Okay, so you're probably wondering, how is that even possible? How can you get such a massive benefit from so little time? Well, the answer is all about a fundamental difference between strength training and, say, endurance training. It all comes down to one word: intensity.
Think about it like this. Endurance training, like going for a long run, is all about low intensity for a long duration. You find a pace you can sustain for miles. Strength training is the exact opposite. It's built on creating incredibly high amounts of force and fatigue, but in super short, intense bursts. And because it's so intense, you physically can't do it for very long, and your body needs a whole lot of recovery time afterward.
I love this analogy. Think of your strength training session like an SR-71 Blackbird spy plane. This thing is an absolute beast. It operates at the edge of what's physically possible. But after just one flight, it needs a massive amount of maintenance and downtime. It's all about that extreme output, which demands extreme recovery.
Now, endurance training? That's more like a Cessna. It's super reliable, it can fly for hours and hours at a steady pace, and it doesn't need to be totally rebuilt after every single trip. They're two different machines built for two completely different jobs. And the time efficiency of strength training comes from being that Blackbird, not the Cessna.
So we know that intensity is the secret sauce. But to really get why strength training is so uniquely intense, we need to zoom in a little bit, from the big picture philosophy down to the physics of your own body. Because it turns out, your body is basically an amazing system of levers.
Right, so whenever you lift a weight, what's really happening is your muscles are pulling on your bones to create movement around a joint. The classic example everyone knows is the bicep curl. Your elbow joint is the pivot point, the fulcrum, and your bicep muscle provides the force to lift that weight in your hand. Simple enough, right?
Now, what's fascinating is that most of the major muscles in our bodies work as what's called a class 3 lever. Now, that sounds technical, but all it really means is that the muscle, the part doing the work, is attached to the bone between the joint and the weight you're lifting. And that specific design has huge implications.
Yeah, so this lever setup creates this really interesting trade-off in our bodies. It's actually not very efficient when it comes to force. It means your bicep has to generate way more force than the actual weight of the dumbbell you're holding. But what we lose in force efficiency, we gain in speed. A tiny, small contraction of your bicep creates a huge, fast movement at your hand. Basically, we're built for speed, not for brute force leverage.
Okay, so let's put this into practice. Let's look at a simple bicep curl through this physics lens and see exactly why it creates such an intense training stimulus.
Come on, you know this feeling, right? If you've ever picked up a dumbbell, you know this instinctively. The beginning of the curl feels okay, the very top feels easier, but that halfway point, it feels impossibly heavy. So what's going on there?
It all comes down to simple physics. Leverage. Think about using a wrench on a bolt. The longer the handle, the easier it is to turn, right? Well, in the middle of the curl, when your forearm is parallel to the floor, the dumbbell has the longest handle possible to pull down on your elbow joint. The weight of the dumbbell hasn't changed, but the leverage it has against you is at its absolute maximum at that exact point. That's why it feels so heavy. That sticking point, that is the moment of peak intensity.
So understanding all this science, it's not just some cool trivia. It's what allows us to design our workouts to be way more effective, especially when we only have a limited amount of time. It lets us train smarter.
Okay, now get ready for this because this is where it gets really interesting. Your bicep isn't just a muscle for bending your elbow. We think of it that way, but one end of it actually attaches all the way up on the shoulder blade. And this is a total game changer because it means that the position of your shoulder can completely change how a curl feels and works.
And this table shows us exactly how to use that knowledge. See, in an incline curl, your shoulder is behind your body, which pre-stretches the bicep before you even start. In a preacher curl, your shoulder is in front of your body, so the muscle is already a little shortened. By using different exercises that play with these joint angles, you can hit the muscle in different ways and provide a much more complete, more effective stimulus. Now that is training smart.
So in the end, strength isn't about endless hours in the gym. It's about generating high intensity by deliberately using physics and your own anatomy. It's probably the most efficient investment you can make in your long-term health. So the only question left is, knowing all this now, how are you going to invest your 2 hours?